Radio Lewes. Local webcasting for a worldwide audience.
Hello, I'm Richard.
And I'm Matt.
In this show, we'll each select 5 tunes on a particular theme, from songs that make us sentimental to songs about cheese. Good, isn't it?
Are we doing the cheese episode? I thought we'd agreed we're not going to do the cheese episode.
No, we're going yogurt this week. This week, we're looking at songs that remind us of yogurt. No, we're looking at 12-inch remixes.
Oh.
The best 12-inch remixes. And I should say, I mean, we've both had big problems doing this because we both rather like 12-inch remixes and have done since we were about 12 years old. And it's been a struggle, hasn't it?
I mean, we say this every week. Oh, my goodness, this was the hardest week yet. But this genuinely was the hardest week yet. I started researching this at the beginning of the week after we recorded the last episode. And I had what I thought was a fairly solid list. And then by yesterday, it was completely changed. And I'm still not sure I've made the right choices, but I'm going to go with it anyway. And the things that surprised me, there are no Chemical Brothers remixes, there are no Orbital remixes, there are no Fatboy Slim remixes, there are no Underworld remixes. None of those big, looming large figures in the world of remixes in my life feature on this list at all. So that's quite surprising to me.
So what's interesting to me as well is, I've sort of steered away from some of the ones that I thought were really obvious for me, but I think that's because I've played a few of them in my own show over the last few months. But also, I was thinking to myself, well, what did we mean, or what did I mean by 12-inch remixes? And I think that's a good thing to explain because from the late 70s, people released 12 inches, and sometimes those 12 inches were just the original song extended out and add the drums continuing or the bass line continuing, and often it was 70s like disco tunes that DJs extended in order to kind of bring people up and down on the dance floor. So they extended it to 6 or 8 minutes or whatever just to kind of keep the floor going. And then other people started doing it, so it became in the 80s normal pop songs and pop acts were starting to do 12-inch mixes of their tunes, and it really varied. So you got some of them which were quite lazy, which was just the instrumental version of the song connected essentially to the actual single at the end, and you ended up with this 9-minute version which was just instrumental and then the main song, which is, to me, is really annoying and always got me really annoyed as a kid, going, this is a rip-off. But then they had ones where that they mixed it differently and extended it, and that was really good. But I think for me, some of the very best ones are where they take the song and just make it a little bit more than what it was. So, by adding maybe a bit more percussion or some extra drums, or adding in some extra instruments on it, or just reimagining it. It could be, there's so many different ways you could do a 12-inch remix than just putting the instrumental version and then the single version. And I think all of the ones that we've chosen today are good. There's quite a variety of examples, I think, that we've chosen today.
Yeah, and I think, I think I've taken a slightly different route just because I'm a big fan of the remix in general. I love it when people will take hold of a tune and reconstruct it in their own image, but still keep the essence of the song there. So there's some stuff in here where almost the song is almost unrecognizable, but there's still the vocals, or there's something in there. There's a refrain in there that still ties it back, and there are others where things have just been tweaked a little bit. And I've not got. I mean, there's only one which I think comes from the original kind of what we were just talking about, the take the song and extend it kind of thing. But it's a Trevor Horn one, so it's never going to be just that. It's a real art. It's a real art. I'm not a fan of when you get a remix and it's just completely different and there's nothing of the original song in there at all. I don't really see the point of that. As much as I love Richard James and his own stuff, Aphex Twin has a habit of doing that, and it's like, well, you might as well just create your own thing. What for me is it's almost like we were talking about with covers last week. It's about showing a genuine respect for the song, but just sort of making it into something more or else.
Yeah, making it more, exactly. I think that idea of sort of, making it more or putting your own interpretation on it, but that keeps the the integrity of the basic song. I mean, there's a brilliant example of which one of them was on my list, which was the CJ McIntosh remix of Bonita Applebum by Tribe Called Quest, which is basically, he takes one of my favorite records, Why by Carly Simon, and puts that as the backing track to things. So all they've done is they've kept the rap, but then he's remixed in this other tune behind it. And it's just brilliant. I think it's way better than the original.
It is, absolutely.
It's just an amazing interpretation of it. And I think that is just inspired to me.
And there was another one which was got SWV right here, which was mixed with PYT, I think it was, by Michael Jackson.
Oh,
and so they just took the backing from that and put it underneath their tune, and then they actually brought in the chorus from Jackson's song as well, and that's a brilliant thing too. Yeah, the Y version of Meter Applebum is just far superior though to the original. It just is, and I think they admit that as well, because it's the one that you hear the most.
Yeah, and I'm already starting to think about other remixes that I wish I'd put in my list. God, I'm gonna have to stop. Well, let's go on to the first song. What have you got for your first tune?
Okay, so I am going to go straight in with one of my favorite remixes of all time. It's a remix. So in the late 90s, early noughties, my attention was brought to this Japanese guy called Cornelius. Real strange avant-garde pop kind of producer and composer and performer, who released a bunch of albums sort of in the early 90s, and they were kind of twee, sort of throwbacks to 60s and 80s kind of pop music. And I bought them, and they were okay, but I kind of persevered because I'd heard that he was an influence on a whole bunch of people, including Damon Albarn. And then he released this album called Phantasma, which is just a fantastically weird, brilliant album, which goes off in lots of strange places, but is at its heart a pop album. And then he just sort of exploded, and he was everywhere, all over the place. And he collaborated with Albarn on a few things. But then he did this remix of Tender, which was a B-side on one of the singles off that same album. And Tender is one of my favorite Blur songs. It's such a beautiful song. It's a really moving song, emotive song. What you don't expect it to be is a drum and bass tune, which is basically what I remember. I bought this single, and I was sat in the office, and we were working in an office where you could play music, and I was sat next to a mate who was also really into music at the time, and we put this on, and it started in, and we were like, oh, this is good, oh wow, it's really great, and some really interesting stuff with this, but the song isn't still there. And then halfway through, it just turns into a drum and bass remix, and we both went, oh my god, it's one of those things where you're not expecting it, it just completely blows you away, and it works. It's utterly wonderful. It's just utterly wonderful. And it's always on my playlists, always.
Great. It's a great example. Well, I know this from way back as well, because I bought this as well at the same time. And yeah, I love it. It's just really inventive. And, it's like a great example of the remixer putting their stamp on it, but not in a way that is arrogant, not in a way of going, well, I'm going to crush the song. It's going, well, look, this is my work. This is my little version of it. And you can tell that it's sort of him interpreting the song in the way that he loves. It's lovely. It's really lovely. Okay, let's have a listen. This is the Cornelius remix of Tender by Blur.
I feel money tugging at my line. Here's a big one. This is a big money fish.
Tender is the night, lying by your side. Tender is the touch of someone that you love too much. Tender is the day the demons go away. Lord, I need to find someone who can hear my mind. Tender is the ghost I love the most, hiding from the sun, waiting for the night. Tender is the night lying by your side. Tender is the touch of someone that you love too much. Tender is my heart, you know, I'm screwing up my life. Oh Lord, I need to find someone who can heal my mind. Come on, come on, come on, get through it. Come on, come on, come on.
Love's the greatest thing.
Come on, come on, come on, get through it. Come on, come on, come on.
Love's the greatest thing that we have.
I'm waiting for that feeling. I'm waiting for that feeling. Waiting for that feeling to come. Oh my baby, oh my baby, oh I, oh my baby, oh my baby, oh Tender is the ghost I love the most. Hiding from the sun, waiting for the night to come. Tender is my heart, I'm screwing up my life. Oh Lord, I need to find someone who can heal my mind. Tender is my heart. 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 Tender is my
Ace.
Well, I love this. There's a little sample of a I don't know, it must be from I don't know, maybe it's a martial arts movie, but he says at the start, this is the big one. This is the big money fish. And it's almost like Cornelius going, yeah, I got paid shitloads for this and I'm having a lot of fun with it.
Nice. So there we go. That was the first one. I'm going to have to think about my first one. I'm going to start with a fairly straight 12-inch remix, basically kind of from the disco era, I guess. And this is a remix of a song called "Falling in Love" by a band called Surface, who basically no one's ever heard of really, and they didn't really do anything, I guess. But it's a remix apparently by Shep Pettibone, who was the Uber remixer. So basically, if he touched it in the 1980s, then you've probably got a hit on your hands. So he remixed for Madonna, the Pet Shop Boys, Duran Duran, everybody at one point sort of wanted him on their thing. And the thing I love about his stuff is that, again, it's like he reinterprets things a little bit, but just adds a bit of oomph to them. So he adds really brilliant sort of dance drums and percussion, and just makes it sound in an 80s way, just really quite dancey and funky. So I loved his stuff. And this is just a kind of classic early mid 80s dance tune, but it's just been, I love the way that it's about a 10-minute long remix, and he's just chopped it up and pulled out, right, we'll have the drums first, we'll have the bass line going, and it's a really simple tune, but I think it's a beautiful tune, and all he's kept in is drums, bass line, piano, and the vocals. That's essentially it. And so over this 8 or 9 minute remix, he just put some of it in, pull some of it out. But to me, it never gets boring. It's just absolutely ace. So that's why I've chosen this one. This is a really great example of what I think a good 12-inch should be like.
So whereabouts in the sort of Shep Pettibone age did this come? Because it doesn't have a lot of his trademark stuff in it. The
It's
cowbell
early.
and all that kind of thing.
It's very early on. And I don't know if you've heard any other versions of this, but there's this. It appears on one or two other kind of disco sort of LPs, compilation LPs, kind of underground disco ones. And there's the sort of the normal 12-inch remix it's really good, but this one just sounds a bit cleaner and a bit fresher and a bit more. The drums are got a bit more impact, and this is how he does it. He kind of uses just like slightly sort of more. I don't know. There's a bit more high end in it, and it just sounds just a lot more snappy to me. And I just love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's great. It's a really clean kind of, like you say, really clean quality sort of disco sound to it. And it's almost like a remix in the most traditional sense, where he has literally he's remixed it to bring out different parts of the production and, like you say, lift the drums and make things a bit crisper and that kind of thing. It's great. It's really, really quality stuff.
Yeah,
I'd not heard it before. I'd never heard of it.
Oh, great. Well, we'll put it on now. Here we go. This is Surface and Falling in Love. Yeah, tune. That is the Shep Pettibone mix of Falling in Love by Surface. Okay, number 2, Matt, what have you got?
Number 2, I am going to go with another one from around the same era as Tender, actually. This is Paul Weller, believe it or not. And it's the Portishead mix of Wild Wood. This, to me, is an example of a band taking a tune which is a good tune. I mean, it's Paul Weller. He's a good songwriter. He can be a little bit dull, just in the way that he puts, composes and puts his stuff across. It's a little bit dad rock. But Portishead take hold of this tune and throw down on it, and it's just much, much, much better than the original. Just much better than the original, because Weller's got a great voice. It's a very sort of it's a very languid tune. It's very relaxed, but they throw these massive drums behind it, and they're kind of John Barry-esque kind of strings and guitars into it, and turn it into something not completely different, but something which is just of a bigger scale, more exciting, a little bit threatening and dark, which is not Paul Weller at all. And those two things mixed together work really, really well. It was around about the time, it wasn't long after the first Portishead album came out, so they were still fairly fresh, and it's got that original Portishead sound to it, which I love. It's one that I always come back to. It's always on playlists when no other Paul Weller song is, to be blunt. Jam, maybe. Style Council, maybe. Not his solo stuff.
I remember getting this version as a flexi disc from Melody Maker, I think.
Really?
Back in the day, and playing it. And I mean, flexi discs were so rubbish. Thin bit of plastic that you were expected to put on your record player, and they were just really awful quality. But I played it, and it's just brilliant. I mean, it's such a great remix, and it just fits it perfectly, as you say. This kind of languid, sort of bassy, slightly sort of dubby sort of version. It fits, and I love the sort of twangy guitars that they put in there, because again, you'd thought Paul Weller would be absolutely, really annoyed that they've actually someone's done but twangy guitars on a Paul Weller record. But I think Paul Weller's got a lot more breadth to his taste than people give him credit for. I mean, the Style Council was an amazing. I love the Style Council, by the way. I mean, I love the Jam. Style Council were great. And he actually made a dance LP. You know that? Before the Style Council? I think it was before then, or just after. But, a proper dance music LP. I don't know if it was ever released, but, he's been into quite a wide range of things. So I think getting Portishead to remix it is a great choice. And you're right. I think it's much better than... I love the original. I think Wild was a great tune. But this takes it to another level where it's just very funky, and it just works.
Just big. It's big.
It works. Yeah. Let's throw a bit of Weller then. This is Wildwood, and this is the Portishead remix.
Deserve an hour
go. Beautiful, beautiful stuff.
So good.
Voila. Right, what am I going to do? Number 2 for me is a record by the indie band called the Boo Radleys, which people will probably have heard of. I guess they had like one single that did well, which got to number 1, which was "Wake Up Boo," which was their one, incredibly poppy, hooky tune, and the rest was kind of slightly sort of awkward, rather a lot going on in the mix, sort of indie pop. I never really got massively into them, but somehow I heard this remix of their song called Lazarus, and it's just really beautiful. So this is a remix by Saint Etienne, who both of us absolutely love. And I remember buying this, and I think it's because I bought this when I was at university, this single, and I think it's because I hung out with a lot of indie kids. But then I think I must have heard this remix and thought, I know, this is the way I can kind of swallow some of this sort of indie stuff whilst keeping like a bit of pop and dance sensibility. And the reason I love this remix so much is that the original song it's a bit of a racket, to be honest. I mean, the original song is a bit it's a bit random. It's overproduced, or it's not produced enough, and it's not my sort of thing. It's all right, but what Saint Etienne have done is they've pulled it apart, made it really, really sparse, added a beautiful kind of melody over the top. And it's kind of become this really kind of like melodic ambient track, which actually brings in the kind of the main melody of the tune. But they've just basically rewritten it themselves, but added the melody themselves over the top of it that would have been played on guitars in the original song. And it doesn't actually sound massively like a Saint Etienne track, I don't think. It just sounds something quite different from what they would normally do as well. But I just think it's a really beautiful, it's just a beautiful song. And I go back, I had this about 20 years ago, but I go back to it quite a lot because I think it's a really ace tune.
Yeah, it's this showed up on it must have been a Select. Do you remember Select magazine? It was a great magazine, Select. I had loads and loads of them. And they used to give away a tape with almost every month's edition. And this, I believe, was on it. And yeah, it was one that made me go, that's not what I expected, and he's very good when I first heard it, because I wasn't a fan of the Boo Radleys, because I only kind of associated them with Wake Up Boo and Chris Evans. And I love Saint Etienne, but you're right, it doesn't sound anything like Saint Etienne. But none of Saint Etienne remixes do sound like them at all. It's obviously Bob Stanley and Pete Wiggs' sort of excuse to sort of stretch their legs a little bit when they get hold of a remix. And to me, this sounds more like Aphex Twin. It's got that kind of very analog sounding kind of synth and quite hissy drums throughout it. It's a really nice, unexpected piece. It takes what is, in mine and your opinion, an average sort of indie tune and turns it into something a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Right, we'll put it on then. This is Lazarus, the Saint Etienne remix by the Boo Radleys. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Number 3. What do we got for number 3?
Number 3, something that probably you couldn't be described as beautiful, to be honest. Richard, I don't know if you knew this about me, but I am rather a fan of early to mid 90s drum and bass.
There's nothing to be ashamed of.
There is nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, I once saw at a forum, somebody got a bit overexcited and said, I would say that drum and bass is the best genre of music ever made. I wouldn't go quite that far, but when it comes down to experimentation and being true to a sound and stripping things back, there's a lot of drum and bass that's really good. And then when you take a track by Missy Elliott, for example, the original track was produced by Timbaland. So again, big, lush, lots of stuff going on in there, really interesting, intricate kind of sounds in the original tune. And then you give it to a band like Ganja Crew, who are just Londoners who didn't release a lot of tunes, released a few really, really aggressive drum and bass and jungle tunes. And they gave, obviously, whoever it was, the label, Missy Elliott, gave Ganja Crew Beat Me 911, which is quite a romantic tune for Missy Elliott, really. And they've just stripped it down and messed it up and made it really kind of skittery and jumpy. There's no Missy Elliott in it. They've just taken the guest vocalists, whose names I can't remember, and used their chorus and their sort of vocals and laid it over the top and just put this absolutely killer driving bass line underneath it that just goes all the way through. And it just it kind of does the same thing over and over and then breaks down, goes quiet for a bit, and then comes back again and does the same. It's just fun, and it's good if you're, I don't know, feeling a bit angry maybe, or excited about something to listen to. And it's not very well known. I've looked on all the sort of greatest hit stuff, and I had it on a CD single, and I don't think many people have heard it because it's not very well distributed. It's great. It's really good fun.
I'd never heard this before, and I haven't listened to much Missy Elliott before as well. But I know she's good, and I know you love
Missy Elliott.
I know you love her stuff. But yeah, no, I liked it. It was, I say, it probably isn't my sort of thing that I would normally go for, but it's like it's got this amazing like energy to it that makes you just want to go, yes. So yeah, it's a great sounding thing.
Yes. It's a great sounding thing. That should go on.
There's no higher compliment than that. Yeah. All right, let's go. This is Missy Elliott.
Say what?
There you go. That freshens you up, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
It's like a blast of air. Good. Right. My third one. Yeah, my third one is just going back to basics. We're going right back to basics. And this is not even a remix. It's just the long version of a song. So this is one of my favorite 12-inch mixes ever. And this is New Order, who, I mean, it's really hard to pick a New Order 12-inch which is better than the others. So I'm not even going to say this is better, but I just love it. This is the Perfect Kiss. So this is the full length version. Actually, the one I'm playing is not, because I wasn't able to get hold of the proper 12-inch version, which is 10 minutes long, and it's just the most amazing thing. This is the one from the Substance LP, which is a minute or two shorter, which is a shame, but hey, kind of, it's got all the best bits in, so it's fine. How many different New Order tunes could I have chosen? I mean, could have chosen the Shep Pettibone remix of True Faith, which is one of the very greatest 12-inch remixes. Could have chosen some tune called Blue Monday that people seem to like.
Blue what? Sorry?
Yeah, I'll play it to you another time. It's interesting. And yeah, just so much stuff. But the thing I love about this is that it starts off with just a little bit of percussion, and then it sort of builds up, does the normal song, but it elongates the song a little bit. And then the last 3 minutes of the track, it's basically that somebody's thrown a bus down the stairs. They've gone, right, we'll put every bit of production, every synth we can find. We'll just go crazy. And I always, whenever, from the first time I heard this, I thought of it like a snowball going down a hill, which is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the last 3 minutes of this is just bonkers, and I absolutely love it. And you get to the end, And there's this funny noise at the end. I don't know if it's it almost sounds like a sheep, or it's something sped up with something going wow, and you end up and you're just sort of lying there. It's like you've been hit around the face for 3 minutes, and you're like, yeah, you feel like wow. It's just awesome. I mean, it's one of those tunes that you have to just play to kind of appreciate, but you have to listen to this one very, very loud.
Yes, agreed. I would have loved to have been in the studio when they recorded this, because I bet it was a lot of fun, a lot of pent up energy sort of expressed, and I bet they were very, very sweaty by the end of it, because it's just you're right. It starts off really sort of mannered and quiet and almost apologetic, because they know what they're doing, and it, like you say, it just builds and builds and builds until it's just this mammoth epic noise. And I think it's after Blue Monday, it's probably the second New Order song I heard, and I must have heard it on my headphones first, and it was definitely one of those tunes that just rewind and play it again from the very beginning. So it's just amazing.
Yeah. All right, so turn the volume up and enjoy this. This is New Order and The Perfect Kiss. There you go.
Exhausted.
Does anybody want a break and a cup of tea before the next song after that? Right, we'll go straight into it. This is number 4. What have you got for number 4?
Well, I've planned this quite well because I'm going to relax everything down a little bit now. Kruder and Dorfmeister, Austrian down-tempo producers, better known for their remixing than they are for their own stuff, but their own stuff is very, very good. Just creators of very lush sounds and very sort of disciplined and mannered sort of electronic sounds with a little bit of jazz involved here and there. This is a remix they did of Lamb, who were sort of also rounds in the whole kind of trip hop era of the mid to late 90s. Along with Moloko, they didn't really get as much credit as I thought they deserved. Their first album had some wonderful tunes on it. Gorecki is a brilliant tune, and this, which is Trans Fatty Acid, is a wonderful tune. It's got these beautiful, they've got this beautiful female vocals over the top of it, and really sort of imploring and emotional stuff, but slightly odd. It's Lou Rhodes. That's the name of the vocalist. She's obviously a folk singer as well. So there's a bit of that kind of that tendency to it, not in a bad way. It's not self-indulgent. But the original was kind of sparse and a bit obvious trip hop, and this just takes it, turns it into just this really romantic piece of music. It's very laid back. It's very kind of, it's not sort of Sunday afternoon coffee table kind of stuff. There's a bit more to it than that. But it's just one of those tunes that I put on when I need to just kick back a little bit. And it's lush and it takes you on a journey and it's very beautiful.
Yeah, nice. That's a good description of it, and it's a good description of Kruder and Dorfmeister, because I know them pretty well, but I know their stuff well because of the K&D sessions. The thing that basically everybody who was in their 30s in the 1990s seemed to have. It was the LP that was on any sort of middle class 30 something year old stereo. And I've heard this LP so many times, and I don't know. It's a really, to me, it's a really difficult one. So I've got it, and I like it, the LP. But there's 1 or 2 tracks on it which I feel are a bit sort of flat or a bit sort of characterless. Whereas you say it's kind of like this. It's an amazing sounding. They obviously put loads of effort into how it sounds, but then there just seems to be a bit of soul lacking in it. But fortunately, this isn't one of those tunes, and this is a really good, because they've done some really. I mean, they did a great remix of Depeche Mode, didn't they? Was it? I can't remember. Is it It's No Good? Something like that, I think.
Yeah, It's No Good. Yeah.
And so they've done some really, really nice remixes, and I think this is one of the really good ones that they did, and it just sounds, like it's had care put into every little detail of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's really well crafted. And again, it's not destroyed the song. It's just taken it in a slightly different direction.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Well, this is Lamb and Trans Fatty Acid, the Kruder and Dorfmeister remix.
no one said it would be easy. Did anyone tell you the road would be straight and long? Relax your mind and give it all to me. 'Cause you know, and I know, our love is strong. You know, to weather the rain, to weather the snow, to weather the storm. To weather the rain, to weather the snow, to weather the storm. Often I see fear in your eyes. And sometimes I know your heart is full of little arrows. But trust in me, and no one can do you wrong. 'Cause I know, and you know, our love is strong enough to weather the rain, to weather the snow, to weather the storm. To weather the rain, to weather the snow, to weather the storm.
Nice. That was great. That was great. I have to go back and listen to that LP because I don't think I've actually listened to it since the late 90s. I need to go back and have another bash at it.
Is it them that did a remix of Bug Powder Dust? I think it's them that did a version.
They did.
That's on that album. That's very good as well.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, my number 4. So yeah, this is interesting. This is an interesting one. So this is the Human League and Don't You Want Me? Yeah, you know, everybody knows this, but you probably won't have heard this version of it. And this is a remix that was probably done about 4 or 5 years ago by a producer called Napoleon, who is actually a guy called Simon Mills, who is actually one half of Bent, the band Bent, one of my favorite like electronic pop bands. And since Bent sort of went into a sort of a hibernation for about 10 years, he was incredibly he produced tons and tons of stuff under the name Napoleon and under his own name. And in fact, one year he produced 12 different EPs, 12 different 4-track EPs over the course of the year, one a month. And they're all brilliant. And I really encourage people to listen to Napoleon if you can. It's on Bandcamp, and you can listen to it all for free and buy it for fairly cheaply. But this is his remix of "Don't You Want Me" by the Human League, and I think there's something I love about this because basically he's taken a lot of the vocals out, but he's kept a lot of the instrumentation in there, and he's turned it from being this kind of just great pop song, but it's just something there's something really kind of mournful about this. There's something kind of quite emotional, I think, about this remix. It's a really beautiful remix. I think it's obviously someone who absolutely loves this song that has just wanted to turn it into something a little bit different, and he's kept all the tuning. I think he actually might have replayed some of the instruments on it just to make them sound even more sort of zippy and sort of up to date, but it sounds very much like "Don't You Want Me," but just completely reordered. And he's brought out just the tune, the backing tune of the whole thing, which I just think it sounds really beautiful. I don't know what you think, because had you heard this before I showed it?
No, I hadn't. Mostly because, as you know, I'm not a Human League fan, so it's not something I seek out, and particularly not this song because it gives me nightmares of when it was out originally in the early 80s, and it was just wouldn't go away. It was always there as a song. But yes, this is really good, and he's obviously Napoleon's obviously taken it, and I think he's reconstructed quite a lot of it. There's not a lot, as when I was listening to it, it doesn't sound like there's a lot of the original instrumentation there, but all the component parts of the song are there. I think he's reconstructed it out of more modern kind of synths and patches and whatnot, and it's really nice. What it struck me though, it reminded me a little bit of, going back to Shep Pettibone, the dub mixes that used to show up on the B-sides of lots of 12 inches, where it was about taking and really exploring the instrumentation of the song itself, and just having little snippets of vocal coming in now and again, which I really liked. So it's a really interesting sort of combination of kind of throwback to that, respect for the original song, but a completely new sort of reconstruction of that song with modern techniques, which is good. I liked it.
That's an interesting point, actually, because Human League are quite famous for one of their LPs called Love and Dancing, which is the instrumental 12-inch remixes of the songs from Dare, which was like their massive LP. And one of the tracks on Love and Dancing was a dub version of "Don't You Want Me." So it was an extended version of it, but without a lot of the vocals in it, which was brilliant. I mean, even if you are not a massive fan of Human League, Love and Dancing is a really great LP to listen to, because they've kept the core tracks, but they've just extended them and messed them about in really interesting ways, often without the vocals on. And this is kind of like an evolution of that almost, but into something which, as I say, it kind of just brings out sort of, I don't know, the slightly mournful quality of the overall tune in the background. So I think it's great. So yeah, here we go then. Human League, Don't You Want Me, the Napoleon remix.
want me? You know I can't believe it when I hear that you won't see me. Don't you want me? You know I don't believe you when you say that you don't need me.
Either with or without you.
Don't you want me? You know I can't believe it when I hear that you won't see me. Don't you want me? You know I don't believe you when you say that you don't need me. It's much too late to find. You think you change your mind? You'd better change it back or we will both be sorry.
Right, there we go. That was the Human League. So are we on the fifth one already? Are we on the last one
already? We are.
Blimey.
Batting for it.
We'll have to do another 5 of these at some other point because we've got an endless bin of 12-inch remixes to scramble through, haven't we, I think?
Yeah, I think we definitely will need to be around 2 at some point. Absolutely.
So what have we got for number 5?
Well, we're kind of returning to the 80s tradition of play the instrumental and then play the song, except as I sort of hinted earlier on, this is Trevor Horn, so it's not quite that. It's Grace Jones, Slave to the Rhythm, the Hot Blooded mix, which was only available on the original 12-inch. Now, obviously, Slave to the Rhythm was part of an album which was all formed around this tune. And I have the album. I bought it on vinyl a little while ago. And although all the explorations of the tune are really, really good, none of them seem to quite hit the mark on the album. So what's wonderful about this is that it really does take I think this is probably, I'm going to say it, I think this is the best produced song of all time.
It's actually, you know what? I think it's sort of known for being that by some people. I think some producers have quoted it as just because I think it's not just the amount of time that's been spent on it, because there's been longer time spent on other things that I could list, but it is, I think several people have said they just think it's the most wonderful sounding thing, and it is. I mean, if you listen to the percussion in it, oh my goodness, it's just incredible.
And it's just layers and layers of crisp, beautifully played, lush sounds that none of them get sort of mushy. You know, you can hear everything that's going on in it. And it's just, the thing about this is it's 8 minutes long, and you just really get to enjoy the whole thing. You get to enjoy every part of the song. And it feels natural at 8 minutes. It doesn't feel like instrumental then single. It feels like this is what they intended to do from the very beginning. And it's Trevor Horn, who we both love, and it starts with a sample from Lovejoy himself, Mr. Ian McShane. So just enjoy it. It's just put your headphones back and close your eyes and enjoy being immersed in this sound.
I think it's one of the very few instrumental then single 12 inches that not only can you get away with, but it is, I think I can't think of a better one that, you know, than this. This is just great. And as you say, I think it's sort of meant to sound like this. You know, it's almost as if, well, look, just enjoy the amazing instruments in this, enjoy the amazing sound of it, and then listen to the song itself. It doesn't feel like it's been kind of cobbled together as two separate things at all. It feels like one unified piece. And it's just great. What more can you say about it? It is one of the most brilliant sounding pieces of music or popular music that you'll hear. So it's definitely just stick your headphones on and lap it up. It's beautiful. Here we go. Grace Jones and Slave to the Rhythm.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Grace Jones, Slave to the Rhythm.
to the rhythm, slave to the rhythm, to the rhythm.
Ah, gosh. I think it's one of those songs that you just want to play again, isn't it? You come to the end of it, you think, that wasn't enough. I want a bit more.
I mean, how old that tune was? What, 84? I guess it might have come out.
Yeah, 85, isn't it? Yeah.
And it just still sounds its own thing. It doesn't sound dated at all. And no matter how many times it comes up on shuffle, I just listen to the whole thing from beginning to end every time.
So, well, up with my final tune, which is a very logical sort of step from your one. This is Two Tribes by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. So again, Trevor Horn production, but this is a particular version of it. So Two Tribes was a song where they were guilty of doing a instrumental plus the single version of it, which wasn't that great. And there were so many different remixes of it. But the one I always loved the most was the one in the video. And it wasn't actually released as a single. It wasn't actually released as a 12-inch remix, probably because they've got people like John F. Kennedy in it, and they would have probably had to be, sort of paid millions of pounds for the rights to it. So it's a really, it was just quite a groundbreaking video as well. I think it showed Reagan, and I can't remember who was it at the time. Who was the other?
Chef.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember who, but them having a punch up basically in the middle of a wrestling ring, and it was full of kind of 80s nuclear paranoia in it, and it was quite a kind of. It was kind of a devastating sort of video, really, and I think it was incredibly popular, and it cost a lot of money, and it was directed by Godley Cream. But also, I think the other really exciting thing about it is it's just a really exciting version of the song. So I love the first bit of the remix, which is basically kind of news footage of people talking over the top of the percussion and the track. It just sounds really great, and it's not a massively long. I think it's about sort of 6 minutes or so, but it's just a really exciting remix, and it's a time when we were both really into this sort of stuff, from Grace Jones through to Propaganda through to Frankie Goes to Hollywood, and I think this is just a really great example of a classic long version.
So the first time I saw/heard this, we were all together because Channel 4 they'd done their own NTV. Basically, they'd done a thing which was the greatest video of all time or something, I think, and it must be in the mid 80s. And it was an overnight thing, and we recorded it, and we all watched it around Barry's house. Why I remember this, I don't know. But we specifically recorded it because they were going to play this video, and none of us had seen it. And I remember us watching it and just being completely blown away by the inventiveness and the ballsiness of it. And the fact that it was the first time I'd ever heard a version of a tune on a video that was markedly different from any other version that had been released because of the samples and whatnot put into it. And that kind of sampling of vocals from the news, or samples of sounds from the news being worked into the tune. In a way which is quite funny as well. I mean, it's Frankie Goes to Hollywood, so they didn't really take anything seriously, so it's quite humorous. And it just builds up. It's almost the first example of what the kids these days call a drop. You're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for the song to kick in. And when it does, it just explodes and everything goes mad from that point. And it's such a big tune anyway. They've really managed to sort of build up to it and make it feel even bigger than it actually is. And it was just, remember it being just super exciting when I saw it for the first time. It's great.
Yeah. So we'll leave you with this. Have a good week. We'll be back next week with some more stuff. I'm not sure what our theme will be, but this is Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Two Tribes Video Destructo.
Above everything else, the American people want leaders who will keep the peace, keep the peace, keep the peace. Henry Cabot Lodge and I keep the peace. No, Mr. Khrushchev. No, Mr. Khrushchev. No, Mr. Khrushchev. Lodge and I, no firm diplomacy. No, Mr. Khrushchev. No, Mr. Khrushchev. No, peace for America and the world.
We have an exclusive report from Michael Terrorist Black from Patterson, New Jersey.
الحلم الكبير كيف تراه؟ كما قال خالد بن الوليد مع النصر.
I believe that limited nuclear war will work. Under the Charter of the United Nations, we are asking tonight that an emergency meeting of the Security Council be convoked without delay.
We have an exclusive report from Frankie.
The air attack warning sounds like this is the sound.
When you hear the air attack warning, you and your family must take cover.
Keep the peace. No apologies. No regrets.
Radio Lewes. Local community webcasting.